Okay, guys, it is time for my favorite segment. Let's see if that comes up properly. Here we go.
Here's a house. Here's a door. Windows 1, 2, 3, 4. Ready to knock? Turn the lock.
10 school. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. I just love the intro. All right, so welcome back to Fun with Fountain Pens, my favorite segment of the show, which is when I review a fountain pen for you. Now, the pen that I've got for you today is a no-name Chinese brand. I looked it up. I tried to find out about this pen. I could find nothing about it. But since I upgraded my phone, I do have a better camera. So I'm using what was my primary camera to do my overhead view of the pens. So hopefully it focuses a little bit more. Now, for those of you who use a generic fountain pen, you may have used a Lamy Safari. Now, I really rate them. A Lamy Safari is a pen you can get from most bookshops here in New Zealand for about $40 or $50, and they're a very sort of they're a really great, capable pen from a very well-known manufacturer, Lamy in Heidelberg in Germany. I have I run with their flagship model, the Lamy 2000, all of the time. It's one of my favorite pens, but I also love these. My mum actually prefers the Lamy Safari to their more expensive 2000 model. It is so popular, in fact, that it has been copied. There are many Chinese pens I go on about where they're an homage. So there's the X159 I talked about the other day, which Excalibur purchased, which is an homage to the Mont Blanc 149. This right here is just, it's not an homage, it's a straight up copy. It is almost absolutely identical to the Lamy Safari, okay, in every regard. So on the Lamy, you can see it's kind of got a triangular grip here. And the good thing about the triangular grip is it enforces a standard pen grip for a person. Okay, which is quite cool. It's not for everyone. Like, some people prefer to hold a pen a little bit differently, but the Lamy 2000, particularly for a younger person, enforces that kind of grip. The other thing is that it has a standard Lamy converter. Now, this is a cartridge converter inside the pen, which you use for sucking up ink by turning this red thing, okay? Now, you can buy one of these converters for your Lamy pen for about $8. You can buy them at any bookshop. The alternative is you can buy this copy of a Lamy pen for $10 from AliExpress, and I did so. The reason is that it's got a very, very peculiar nib. It's called a Naginata. And I'll show you how it works in a moment, but first I'm going to tell you the story. There are Japanese pen manufacturers who are really, really good. They've been doing it for a long, long time. And one of those is Sailor. Now, back in 1910, Sailor started making fountain pens. Now, most fountain pens that you encounter, they come with a very, very standard nib. It's called a round nib, okay? And it comes in fine, medium, broad like that. Every pen you've pretty much used has a fine, medium, or a broad. But there are different types of nibs to give handwriting character. A good example of this is a stub, which provides very, very easy line variation. It's always for fountain pen enthusiasts about line variation. The advantage of a stub is that the downstrokes are broad and the cross strokes are thin. And because of that line variation, it gives a nice character to a person's handwriting. There are some interesting nibs that work opposite to that. An example is an architect nib. An architect nib is very, very hard to make. It's very, very specialist because it works opposite. The side strokes are broad and the downstrokes are thin. Now, with that background, the thing with the Japanese pen manufacturers a century ago is it wasn't just for they weren't just making pens for Western writing. It was also for Oriental calligraphy. And they came up with some really, really interesting nibs, including the Naginata. Now, a Naginata is a type of sword. It's a Japanese sword that I think was used maybe not by samurai, but by Japanese soldiers, which is really, really broad at one end. It's like almost like a sword crossed with an axe. And they made a nib that was like that. This is such a nib. You can buy one of those on a Sailor pen a Naginata, for about $1,800 or $1,900. I was browsing AliExpress and found this $10 pen that has a Naginata nib. So I bought it, and here's how it works. With this nib, if I show you this, you may be able to see it. Hold up. You might be able to see how the end of the nib is really oddly angled. Can you guys see that? I hope you can on the broadcast. All right, you can see that it's sort of, it's got this crazy, there we go. It's got this crazy angle to it. And because of that, what it does is the effect is, depending on the angle of the pen to the page, is how thick the line is. So if I write a line with the pen really, really perpendicular, it's very, very thin. Whereas if I write very, very parallel, the line is very, very thick. See how that works? And that also accentuates the fact that this pen naturally writes a bit like an architect, where the downstrokes are quite thin. Oops. Sorry, guys, a bit of an ink flow issue. The downstrokes are quite thin, and the cross strokes are quite thick. And for an Oriental person who's used to moving their hand to alter the way they are writing Oriental characters, this is a wonderful, wonderful pen. Okay, so it's really interesting to use, and I'm still learning how to do it. But what I really love is, for $10, I have a nib on a pen that I've been eyeing up for years and years and years, and that I may have, if I had a little bit more money in my pocket, spent $2,000 on buying. I don't know what sort of pen this is. It's just a no-name Lamy copy from AliExpress. I should probably talk about the ink. Today I'm using Montblanc's Mystery Black. This is a water-soluble black ink. It's pretty generic, but the reason I'm using it is if I use a pen with an Oriental nib, Oriental people prefer to write in black writing, and I don't want to offend them, so it's sort of like, I felt like, okay, because I'm using an Oriental type nib, I've got to use black ink. All right, so that is the pen for this week. The no-name Lamy Safari copy, fitted with a Naginata nib and Montblanc Mystery Black ink. I hope you found that as funny to watch as I did making it. Here's some more music in the meantime.